Sherpas actually felt quite pleased to lie there.
Lincoln, keep breathing. Breathe.
He was breathing very slowly and he was in a very bad way. He's lost all heart and hope, they put it like that. I remember thinking, he's a goner.
Lincoln. Lincoln.
The Sherpas put their finger into Lincoln's eye and he didn't respond at all, so he was in a comatose state. We knew that Lincoln wouldn't live because if you've got cerebral edema, you've been without oxygen and you're that high on Everest, no one has survived.
To be realistic, we have like zero chance of getting him down. If the Sherpas stay up there, they could all die.
The Sherpas had put in superhuman efforts, but we had to realise that there was some point where someone would have to make the decision that to save their lives, we would have to tell them to leave Lincoln and head down themselves.
The Sherpas say a prayer and collect Lincoln's belongings to return to his family. Lincoln Hall is left for dead. Lincoln Hall has been left for dead near the summit of Mount Everest. With no hope of saving him, his Sherpa guides have had to descend the mountain without him to save their own lives. Back at base camp, Mike Dillon is struggling to come to terms with the death of his close friend.
We were in shock. We didn't quite know what to do next. But we did know we had to tell Lincoln's wife, Barbara.
Hello?
It's Mike. Look, I've got some bad news. Lincoln passed away about 20 minutes ago.
I just felt an incredible hollowness, as though really part of me had died as well.
So sorry.
I just felt just numb. I just felt completely numb and hollow.
Three hours after being left to die, Lincoln emerges from his comatose state.
I felt completely disoriented. I was exhausted, dehydrated. I'd been left for dead, and I was still there. I was still alive. I very carefully looked for my pack, which had some really useful things like a warm thermos and a headlamp and some extra clothing.
But the pack has gone. Lincoln's guides have taken all of his gear to return to his loved ones.
My immediate thought was that I'm going to die. Having been left for dead, with no shelter and no oxygen, how could I possibly survive up here?
As night falls on Mount Everest, the temperature plummets to minus 25 Celsius.
It was so cold. There was a wind swirling around like a hurricane.
Exposed near the summit, Lincoln is now at serious risk of hypothermia. If he falls asleep, he will drift back into a coma and quickly freeze to death.
Staying alive meant staying awake. I kept telling myself, just stay awake, just stay awake. My mind was ready just to drift off into nothingness, into the warmth of imminent hypothermia. But I just couldn't let that happen. So I rocked my body in a sort of circular motion.
As the hours go by and the temperature drops further, Lincoln doubts he'll make it through the night.
I had this horrible, horrible recognition of the fact that I would not ever see my family again.
By the early hours, Lincoln is losing the battle to stay alive.
I was so cold. I couldn't feel a thing. And then I realized, with horror, what I wasn't feeling. What I wasn't feeling was my fingers. And I recognized the wooden feeling of frostbitten fingers. My fingers were frozen solid.
But frostbite is not the only sign that hypothermia has now taken a deadly hold.
I was too hot. And I began undressing.
Feeling too hot is a symptom of advanced hypothermia and a sign that Lincoln is close to death.
It was the beginning of the end. I had an hallucination where I was wearing a really warm and comforting cloak. But that cloak was the warmth and the welcoming of my imminent death. And I thought, well, this is when I'm actually going to die.
It's been 12 hours since Lincoln Hall's lifeless body was left to die. Incredibly, he's still alive. But alone near the summit of Mount Everest, he's barely clinging onto life.
The earth was beneath my feet, and I thought, that can't be right. That can't possibly be right. This huge mountain can't be moving. Therefore, I must be on a boat.